Your job is to believe that it can happen, right? That's what we talked about the very first episode. I talked about you have to believe, because if you don't believe, who else is going to believe it for you? Hello and welcome back to Everybody Needs a Martha. Let's keep going with this abundance party. So last week we built on the foundation of gratitude, abundance, and affirmations by talking about those powerful statements, those affirmations. And I hope you've been doing those affirmations because you are capable and you are powerful, and they really do help make your brain into that garden that's blooming with positive thoughts. So we talked about that garden. Your affirmations are the beautiful flowers that you plant to push out the weeds of the negative self-talk. And I said I wanted to talk this week about visualizing and visualization and vision boards and how they can help you cultivate that garden even more. And it's a practice that I've done for a long time. I've sat there and, just closed my eyes and thought about how I want things to play out, how it would be as if. And I think it takes you, the more colorful, more vibrant of a picture you can paint, the more real you can get those feelings to feel, the more they really impact your results, right? And just like the affirmations, those visualizations are a practice. It's training your brain. It's about being able to see what you want, what you're going to have, and have it be vivid and clear. And when you put all that together, it really creates that shift with the inspired action. You're creating that cycle. It really is coming all together. So we keep adding little things each week to help us stay in that right frequency. And I know it might seem like a lot of things, but what we're trying to do here, it's about building that toolbox. It's not, or as we're going to call it the abundance party supply box, because we might not use everything in our supply box every day, all the time, but it's great to have variety when we're planning a party, right? And I think vision boards are huge because we do reply to those images, whatever we see. I mean, if you've ever done like a VR headset with the kids, right? My son has an Oculus, so I will put it on, and I've played games in there. It's not real when you first put it on, right? Like you're putting on a game, you have a headset, but you sure start ducking and moving once you're watching it. All of a sudden, like something's going to hit you and like something's popping in your face. Your brain has a hard time differentiating between the reality and the images before it, right? It's that neuroplasticity, I think, is the term. I'm not a scientist, but I think that's the term that they use to describe the impulse or that your brain takes on to perform like new things that are consistent with the images that you're seeing. But when it comes to visualization and vision boards, there's definitely like science behind this. So there have been studies done. I think it was in 1995. There was a study, I'm going to like butcher the name. I think it's like Laszlo's study. They divided students into 3 groups. A group that practiced free throws daily for 30 minutes. A group that didn't do anything, that was your control group. And then you had a group that spent 30 minutes a day visualizing that they were hitting every free throw. So they're just imagining that they're making every free throw for 30 minutes a day. And after 30 days, people that had physically practiced for 30 minutes improved their performance by 24%. I don't think there's a surprise there, right? Like practice makes perfect, is the saying says. But then the group who only visualized improved by 23%. So they almost had the same results as the people who practice every day. So, and no one's saying it has to be one or the other. There's no reason why you can't do both. So again, it's another tool. And you have stories of coaches who will share how they have their athletes visualize the race, visualize the performance, visualize the task they're going to perform, because again, it really does convince your brain that it's real, that it can happen. And again, to me, it's about being in the right frequency. It's about being in that mindset of I can do it. When my kids are anxious about stuff, I constantly tell them, you're freaking out about something that hasn't even happened yet. It could take that same energy and you can pretend it's going to be great. Like it takes the same energy to think that something's going to go really wrong as it does to think that something's going to go really right. And neither one of it is true at this point because it hasn't happened yet. So you don't know. So why waste your energy thinking it's going to go horrible when you can waste it or not waste it by creating something positive in your brain. So if you're going to use that same energy, use it to be something positive. And I think about my dad a lot when I think of that, because growing up, my dad, I don't think he knew terminologies about law of attraction or positive mindset and all that stuff. None of that, like the terms that we use today. But he would always have like a different spin on stuff. Like even if I had a headache, if I wanted to complain about a headache, he would say, oh, well, at least you have a brain. Or if I would complain about it being a rainy day or be upset about it being a rainy day, he's like, oh, well, it could be a lot worse. It could be fire coming from the sky. So let's be thankful that it's, it was always about being in a positive mindset, positive energy, positive mind frame. And I have a feeling that he used a lot of visualization as well. For those that don't know, my dad had a stroke when I was like 8 years old that left him paralyzed pretty much on the left side. And in the very early stages of, like, right after the stroke, there was also a big chance that he wasn't going to make it. And my mom was told to prepare for the worst because it was a very massive stroke. When they did CAT scans of his brain, I mean, there was like very little, less than 3% blood flow going to most of his brain. And it was in a position, the clots were in places that were just too difficult to even warrant like any type of surgery up there. It didn't make sense. It wasn't enough to do anything. So it was kind of like, he might not come out of this. My mom was told he might not walk again. He might not talk again. And my dad didn't believe that. Like, even when he came to after a lot of me being stuck into an ICU so that I could say a goodbye or at least say a few words to him, even though I was too young to be in that unit, but because it was my dad, they got me in, and through the help of some friends. And I remember talking to him, even though I didn't know if he was listening to me. And I remember my mom telling him, have faith, believe, to him, not to me, to him, believe, you have faith, you believe you can come out of this. And he did. He couldn't walk at first, and doctors were like, you might not walk again. You have to get used to the idea that you're going to be using a wheelchair, or like in best case scenario, maybe with the assistance of a walker, you'll be able to make some steps, but this isn't going to happen. And my dad was just stubborn and was like, no, like, I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk. And I am walking. And he was just like resilient, and he believed, and he had faith. And my dad lived another 12 years after that stroke. And before passing, he didn't use a walker to walk. He didn't use any type of device. Occasionally, if he was going for a long hike, he used a walking stick. But hey, I'm 43 and I use a walking stick if you give me one if I'm going for a long hike. So I'm like, hey, he just believed. He believed that what the doctor said was not going to stop him from achieving what he wanted, which was to walk and talk again. And I went with him on multiple appointments. And every time they would do a CAT scan, you could see the reaction in doctors' faces to see him talking, having conversations, walking the way he was walking, with the amount of damage that was in his brain, because it didn't make sense. And I mean, maybe it's, and I think to me, it's because your brain, your body, your energy has the power to heal, has the power to change things. And it's not our position to question how the universe is going to make things happen in your life. Your job is to believe that it can happen, right? That's what we talked about the very first episode. I talked about, you have to believe, because if you don't believe, who else is going to believe it for you? And it's about faith. It's about believing. And some people might say, oh, this visualization, all stuff, it's just mumbo jumbo. It's like, maybe it is a placebo effect. Maybe it is a placebo effect. Maybe it is just some, because you believe it then who cares if you're getting the results? If it actually works for you, if it's getting you closer to your goals, if it's giving you what you need to be successful, then let it be a placebo effect. That's fine. If the pill they gave you at the doctor's office is actually just a water pill, but it actually cured your disease, which has happened, that's why we know the term placebo effect, then okay, let's try it. It's about faith. It's about having the right energy, being in that frequency of belief. And whether you believe in God or believe in the universe or the divine being. But let's go to the Bible. If you had faith like a mustard seed, you could move mountains. It's always the same message. You have to believe. You have to envision yourself. Again, in the Bible, in Matthew, there's a part where it's like, pray for what you have as if you have received it and it will be yours. Okay, so let's, whether you want to believe it's God, whether you want to believe it's the universe, whether you want to believe it's divine power, the message is still the same. You have to believe that you can have it. You have to create that in your mind. And the easiest way to do that is with these tools like visualizations, like positive affirmations, like vision boards. So a vision board, if you don't know what it is just, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on a screen, you can do it on a poster board. I've used poster board a lot in the past. I just grab a poster board from the Dollar Tree and cut out pictures or print out pictures from the internet or from magazines that reflect the feeling that I want to have. I've done stuff like I've put my body on somebody else's body because I liked the dress they were wearing and how it looked on their body, and I wanted to look that way and feel that way. So I've done that. I've put places I wanted to visit. If you've never read the book, The Secret, or I want to say maybe Jack Canfield's Success Principles. I don't know which one had it, but there's an example in one of the books of a gentleman who did vision boards, and he had moved to a new house and he had all these boxes where he kept all his vision boards, and his son comes into the office and asks him, like, what are these boxes? And he's like, oh, they're my vision boards. Let me show you. And he pulls one out and there's a picture of a house there on an old vision board that he had done. He'd done multiple of them. And in that moment, he realizes that the house in that picture was the house that he had just bought a couple years later. So It wasn't a house like the one. Apparently, he had cut that out of some magazine. It was like maybe like Better Homes and Garden or something like that. And it was the same house. He was in that house. He had bought that house years later. Didn't even realize the house had been remodeled, but it was the same look, same view. He's like, oh my goodness. And he started to cry because, of course, that was an overwhelming sensation to feel. But you can create that. You can create that in your mind. You can close your eyes. You can envision everything. When you achieve your goal, how will that feel? If it's a bigger house, how will your house look? What's going to be decorating the furniture? What's it going to smell like? Are you going to have certain fragrances? Try to get as detailed and vivid an image in your head so that you can have those feelings, because it's all about the feeling. It's more, to me, it's all about the vibration. I've always said it's about the frequency that we're on. It's all about how you're tuning your radio. And so anything you can do to get you in that frequency, I say do it. Another thing that I do a lot is I try to, I think the term that some people use is like live as if. So, and this is kind of off tangent on visualization and vision boards, but it's a little bit in the same, because it's still in the same path of trying to create what you want in life. But one thing that I'll do, and I don't think like most people know that I do it because I don't really share this before, but I don't think, but is I try to think of what it would be like if I'm being successful. And there's certain things in my life that I know I struggle with, and one of them is clutter. So I find that I feel that when I'm being successful, I'm in an uncluttered space. And when I think of abundance, I think of a lack of clutter. And it might sound weird, but I think sometimes being cluttered to me is a sign of lack in my life. And I'm very cluttery just by nature. If you ever see my desk, my office, I tend to be very spread out. My husband doesn't like me using his space because I tend to be a little too much. So, but toning that down and taking that out and clearing the space and making the space more open and making the space more inviting, to me it helps me stay in that frequency of abundance. Because in my head, if I am holding on to things and keeping cluttery things around that I'm not actually using and letting this clutter like be there, if stuff that's not really used every day, then I feel like that's coming from a place of lack. That's me telling the universe, I got enough stuff. I don't even have space to bring anything else. I'm telling God, I don't have space for anything else you're trying to bring my way, because I already have all this stuff I need to deal with. And so I feel that when I declutter, when I make space, when I open up my area, even if it's my bedroom or the kitchen or the living room, whatever space if I find a space that I feel like, you know what, let me open this up and let me tell God that, hey, I'm ready to receive something new. I have made space in my life. And in my brain, that reminds me, like, yes, I am welcoming to whatever is coming my way. I have made the space for it. I'm open to it. And so that's worked for me. And again, I just want to give out tools and things that can help people get into the right frequency and believe that you can achieve your goals and help you get closer to achieving your goals, whatever they may be. And none of us, I said at the beginning, I don't really believe in perfection. None of us are perfect. So we're all going to find what works for us in a different way. I do think visualization is a powerful one. I think affirmations are great. I do think everything I've shared so far are things that do work, and I've seen them succeed. I think next week I'm going to talk a little bit about journaling. I've done that. I am not a big writer. Like, I am not someone who sits down and writes every day. I have friends who do that. That's not me. I have friends who like to write poems. That's not me. But I do find that there are times where I still need to do that. Like, it's a great escape for me, and they work in certain moments in my life. And so I think, if anything, it's to show that it doesn't, like, if it's not even a consistent practice, if it's just something that you do occasionally, it can still bring a lot of benefits into your life. So I think I'm going to talk about that next week. And I would love to hear from you all. I would love to hear any thoughts, any suggestions, or something else you'd like to hear about. And it doesn't even have to be about the law of attraction or success principles or, things that it could be about anything. I'd love to hear more about you. Please share the podcast. Please let your friends know about it. Please. It's now like everywhere. So everything, you can find it on Apple and Audible, Spotify. If there's one that I'm missing, please let me know. I'll make sure I try to get it on there. But I think at this point I've covered all the major ones that I'm aware of, but I'm sure there's probably more out there. Take some time this week just to visualize your dreams and create that vision board. Put it on paper, put it somewhere you see it all the time. Maybe behind, I used to keep mine on the wall by my door. The most recent one I've done. I want to do a new one. I actually just bought poster boards, so I'm going to task myself with creating a vision board this week also. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to hearing from people this week and bringing you something else next week.